Hey everybody, welcome to Oregon State University's Permaculture Design Pro class. This is Basemap Clinic number 1. My name is Jab Mrnakovich. I'm going to be guiding folks through the clinic today. So we're going to be answering questions and also going into base maps. So Sheldon, why don't we start off with your question, sir?
Yes, sir. So I'm working with 5 acres of basically raw land, but we have a bunch of trees um, on there. And so it makes my vegetation list quite extensive. So how do what should I do in terms of that? Do I just focus on key trees that I'm planning on keeping, maintaining, or do I try to capture all that's there? 'Cause I have plenty of fruiting trees already on the site.
Yeah, so generally if you're looking at a homogeneous vegetation area, so if it's a forest or it's a shrubland or thicket, if generally you can get a sense of that area, and so I show it in the tutorial, but basically if you can kind of create a polyline area that has all of this together and call it what you will. So if you want to call it, early stage mixed, late stage mixed, if you get more detail about your site further on, that's great. But then if you can kind of detail out what the species are in it, that would be option number 1. Option number 2 is, because it's the base map, we kind of want to know what's there. So I wouldn't necessarily remove elements of the vegetation in the base map if they haven't been removed yet. So I would basically just take a sense of it as it is and then detail what it looks like. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I understand that. Um, I was just concerned that since other people may have structures on theirs, I have zero structures. So they're
Yeah.
dealing with like spigots, downfalls, whatever. For me, it's just like surface runoff and stuff like that. So mine seems kind of simple, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was kind of concerned I didn't have enough meat and potatoes in it.
Right, right, right. And if you want to put a link to your portfolio in the chat, please do, because we can look at it and use it as reference. But generally, if you have a piece of raw land, getting a sense of the vegetation differences, getting a sense of any topographic information, and if not, just flow, that's it. Like that's when we start with a base map that's just raw land, that's all the information there is to it. And if there is pathways or roads or trails that are on that site, those are excellent to bring in as well. If there's any sort of utility lines that are close by, but again, if it's kind of far in the bush and generally it just is what you see, then we're just trying to demarc all of those different areas. If there's any rocks that are coming through the surface of the subsoil, that's good to mark on there. Just trying to think in terms of the base map. You got a piece of raw land, just topography, vegetation, rock, any sort of water situations where there's water that's pre-existing or there's areas that are saturated. Those can be excellent things to put into the base map as well. Just going to
Okay,
pull up.
I think I just uploaded a link
Yeah.
to it, I think. Anyway, I'm not very computer savvy.
Yeah,
But my
no worries. No, you got it well. So we're just going to pull this up here. So what I'm seeing here is we've got a couple of different yellows that I don't see on your legend. So you'd want to bring those in if those are different types of vegetation. And then what's
it's
the
off the map.
white in between the yellow?
So the white that's in between the yellow, it's basically, if it's not like a hill, it is the river. So the one towards the left of the property, the one's western boundary, that's mostly river. I'm just outlining the vegetation outside of the river.
Okay.
And then one in the center, that's just a big hill, um, a desertified hill. And then the one with the boulders is just, again, a depression that's desertified, and it just has a bunch of boulders in there.
Okay. So basically what I would do in this situation is I would put in the river and I'd probably also put in direction. I'm totally guessing here. I'm just showing the process. And then similarly, whatever this area is, make sure to have a color for it. So if it's bare ground with the rock, make sure to have that in there as well. Because basically what we want to do is be able to take away any sort of pre-existing elements, be it aerial or otherwise, and then be able to discern what this site is. So the only thing I'm seeing that's missing here is these areas, making sure it's in the legend. And then the other thing I would do is I would take these yellow areas and I would send them behind. So I would click on them, click right, and then send to back. So that way all of your vegetation is on top of it. So it's easy to read.
Okay, fantastic. If you move the slide over to the right, you'll see that I have a vegetation thing on there. I just did.
Ah, there we go. Right. Okay. So you do have a bit of this. Great. And you also have some two-letter vegetative code. That's great. So this is unmanaged wilderness and kikuyu grass, right? Okay. I might make the colors a little different only because they're very similar. So I might make one more green than the other. And then if you can, in terms of the unmanaged wilderness, kind of if you know the vegetation, start to detail what that vegetation is that you would tend to see there. That'll also help you as you get into assignment, I believe it's 17, which is the local vegetative survey.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, great work. Looks really good. A couple things I might suggest is you're going to be happier if you have got a smaller title bar. So what I would do is I would try to shrink the title bar a bit, kind of pull the scale up and shrink your compass. So that way you've just got a little bit more space and it'll give you a little bit more space in here. Similarly, I would pull the property boundary and any of the lines that you have. So the rock wall, the living fence, and then I don't know if this is surface runoff or not, only because you've got surface run as dotted line versus dot line. So that might be useful as well. All of those would be good to be on top. So I would basically put the vegetative cover at the back, and that should solve all your issues with legibility.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. All right. Winad and Muzi, you've both submitted your base maps. What do we want to focus on, gentlemen?
Who's it open? Okay, that's mine. You've got open now. Sorry. Okay, cool. So the area I have is I basically try and divide it into two. So it's a bigger area I want to check the water management on, and then
Okay.
a smaller homestead area, which you'll find a bit more below. And then this parcel is also part of a bigger 220 hectare group of villages that are situated together. So I want to make sure I've got the plumbing set up to be able to connect to the next parcel in the future, if possible. So that you don't have to move things at that point. So yeah, I'm a bit in two minds. Should I make like a third base map, you think, with a big area just to check the big runoff, or
Yeah, so
you think you can just
this is kind of two pieces of the conversation. The first is how do we make sure you learn how to build a base map and go through the process and all the rest of it. And the second is what's the purpose of the design that you're working on. So if the big purpose is how does the water interact with the larger section of land, and then how does the water that comes into this section of land then positively or negatively influence the rest of them, I would suggest making a larger base map, just so that way you've got a bigger sense of the larger conversation. Especially when you're working in larger properties. I was just on a call with a client in Botswana, and we're looking at 8, 60, 600, 1,000, and then up to 5,000 hectares. And we had the same conversation on the call this morning. How do you get a sense of that scope and that scale? And do you focus on the small? When we're focusing on water, we always want to start at the top of the watershed. And that doesn't necessarily mean the site. It means where's the top boundary of the water that would fall or influence the top of whatever that site boundary would be. So in terms of the base map, I would say, yeah, you should probably go ahead and make that bigger base map. But it's then being balanced with the fact that you also have to do this in a certain set of time, and this is for an assignment. So what you may want to do is submit this as being the assignment for me to mark because you're in my group, and then work on that other base map to put it into context and help you design. Or what you may want to do is move out from using something like Google Slides and instead move to something like Google Earth Pro, which then allows you to create something that has some longevity. Because I know you're working on this site for the long term. And so it may be more useful to have something that you can come back to and work with and also share with others.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm quite proficient on Google Earth Pro, just not maybe in the context of these type of maps. So a quick guide on that would be good for me. That we can case there is a tutorial, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
if we have time today, depending on our questions, I'm happy to kind of walk through a general scope and conversation on Google Earth Pro. There's
All right.
lots to go through. It's an incredible program. And it's great because it's freely accessible and the learning curve is, well, sometimes steep for people who don't completely know it. It's not like QGIS or ArcGIS. So I would say this looks good. Winard, the only thing I'm missing here is a ground cover. So I would take
Right.
the quick and easy way to do this is you take your, I'll make a copy of this so that way if you don't want it, you can delete it. So the quick and easy way to do this is to take your property boundary because it's already there, and then just take color gradient. So we could take this per se, or we could not. It's too much in the white area, and it's too. There we go. That should work. There we go. So that would be the quick and easy way to do it. And then just add another square in here. So if it doesn't look like you have ponds or wetlands, so you could copy one of those. So we could take this, go like this, grab our wetland.
Yeah.
We could remove the boundary, which is simple enough. We could remove the boundary. We don't. What is going on? Give me 1 sec. So it doesn't want to. Okay, well then let's go white. And then we've got, oh, that's interesting. Okay, we're going to delete that, copy that, bring that back up. And then we're just going to take that same color from here. We're going to try this again. So what color is that? That's 1 beside. So we can do the same thing here, 1 beside. There we go. And then whatever that ground cover is, just stipulate it there.
All right.
And that for me would hit all the rest of it. The open fields, I don't mind them being opaque. I do find though that you kind of lose the details if there is anything underneath. So what you may want to do is play with that and potentially do it as a semi-transparent. So we would take this, go here. What is going on? I'm just going to reload. Maybe it's because I've got 2 open. All right, let's try this again. Wild. All right. So the other way to do this is click on the plus. It'll keep bringing up the color, and then we can just drop it to, let's say, I don't know, 50. And that's just a bit more pleasant to the eye. And then all we have to do is double click the format. And then we can basically click them all at the same time, as well as the legend. It's an important thing to remember to come back to the legend and make sure it all looks, that's a little bit more pleasing. And you may even want to take off the boundary. So that way the outside boundary is just transparent as well. And that's even a bit simpler to use.
Okay. 100%. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Any other questions about your base map?
No, I'm good for now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Muzi, I think you had yours up next. What are we looking at for yours?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yes. Mine is pretty much elementary, guys. I'm pretty much still new to the whole field, learning along the way. So I'll ask for help from Bernard as I proceed.
Sure.
I wanted to ask, I'm also working on this piece of land, but as you might have seen in my previous assignment, that I am concentrating around the school area. So this is the whole area that the chief has there. So my question is, do I have to do a base map for the school just there or the whole area then so that I can maybe connect later on in terms of the waterworks and everything around there?
Yeah, so Muzi, is the whole area the property boundary, or is it larger than that you're speaking about?
The chief's complex is this boundary here. Then the school is there by the corner there. Oh, Can't see my mouse.
So it's one of these areas that you're kind of focusing on. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, so I think definitely from a water perspective, only because I am seeing some drainages up here. Like you can see them, you can see the vegetation cutting and also the change in coloration. So there looks like there's some sort of
Yes.
culvert here, and there looks like there is some kind of channelization, which
Yes.
is basically from a first principles perspective for everybody who's looking at this. Water starts in a sheet flow, then it goes into rills and runnels, and then it gets into main channelization. So basically the water that's coming onto your site in the northwest, if that's what this, yeah, northwest, the northwest corner, that could be put to productive use. And because right now it's not being used to productive use. And so if you're working on this area, I would start to consider if there isn't an opportunity to bring some of that water cross contour and actually influence positively that area. So I would suggest creating, I would suggest creating a base map around this whole area. But basically it would be pretty straightforward. You would just be creating a ground cover, your roadways, and then if any of these are specific types of field production, and it looks like you've got some kind of row production here, and some
Yeah,
paddocks.
that's new. It's a new greenhouse that has been put recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the production around you? What kind of crops being grown here?
Eucalyptus trees.
It's all
Oh,
eucalyptus.
these are eucalyptus, yeah, and pine on the far north.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, I would go ahead and create a full base map. It doesn't have to be super detailed though. So I wouldn't worry about, like, if you wanted, you could put in the fences and the paddocks and things of that nature, but I would make it rather a rather small base map. So I'll show you what I mean. So similar to what we were doing with Winod's place, we're going to do a basic color. We're going to take that basic color. That's not the correct color.
No.
There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. We're going to drop that down like that. And then we're going to bring in the, I'm going to double click your aerial. I'm going to pull it in so that way we can see the legend. We're going to grab this, copy this, put it on. Do you have any paved or stone surfaces on the site?
Yes.
Any
Around the
ponds?
school there is some. No.
Okay, so we'll take
We don't
that
have-
one instead. We'll remove the boundary and we'll call this ground cover. So that would take care of the ground cover. And then what I would do is I'd come in and do some roadways, probably working in an orange or probably working in an orange or a brown. Generally when I'm working, I like to use orange for access. So we're going to take a polyline because we can start here, kind of bring it to the main corridors, like so, and then probably pop it up to 3, pop it up to an orange. Now we've got access 1. We do the same thing with another polyline, bring this over here. And are these like main dirt roads? Is that generally what we're seeing here?
Yes, it's just the roads going to the different houses there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then another polyline will come off of here because it looks like there's kind of the main dirt roads and then we have sort of secondary dirt roads that are going further into the property. So we'd probably want to delineate those only because they probably have their own aspects to it. And then we're going to go back to polyline. I'm going to do the longest one first. And it also looks like we've got some sort of ground or clear driveways. So we'll probably want to get that information in there as well. But when I do this last one, you'll have to tell me. So we'll kind of come in here. Cool. That is incorrect.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
click
right.
and then make sure it's there. Great. Awesome. So these other roads that are here, are these kind of secondary from here and kind of smaller, or are they the same situation?
Yeah. They are smaller.
Small. Okay.
What are they called?
Gravel
Foot
roads.
road.
Yeah. Like double tracks.
Yeah.
Double tracks. Okay. Great. So what we'll do is I'm gonna increase the thickness of these ones. So we're gonna probably go to 4. And then we'll make these as 2s. And that just helps to delineate in terms of your line weights, what you're looking at. So this one looks like it goes kind of in as a back. So we're gonna keep that as a 2 weight. Bring that into that color. And so now visually, when you look at it, I'm just gonna remove the background for a second. You can really see the difference, right? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
And then
yes.
we'll pull in a few more of these because it looks like we've got another one here. And if any of these are not correct, you'll let me know. So we've got this one, and we've got what looks to be this one, which is relatively straightforward. And then we have, are these roads or are these like game paths or just single track trails, or what are these?
Footpaths.
Footpaths. Okay. So we might even
Yes.
drop down either sides, or we might turn into like a dotted line as well. So far, this is all the same. Oops. What's going on? All right. So we're going to go back and grab this one. We're going to copy format, do the 2. In terms of this access path, are there any others that are like this that I'm not seeing because I'm just being introduced to the site right now?
No, these
Okay.
are fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. And is there any fencing on site?
Yes, there's a fencing on the boundary.
Okay, cool. So
Yes, yes.
basically, I'm just going to insert some rows here because I want to make sure that we're doing this at the same time. So I'm going to move everything down so that way everything is still lined up. And then I'm going to bring in a line weight here. So I'm going to copy this, paste it, put it generally exactly where we want it, and then copy paste. Similarly, put it right here. And so then we're going to take this one, copy this one. And so this is going to be the major dirt road, I guess we could call it. And then the secondary
Yes.
one, what'd you call it? 2-track?
A foot road.
Foot road, okay. And then we'll probably add in one more. So I'm going to right click, insert row below. I'm going to copy these, I'm going to deselect the main legend and then just bring these down because I would also like to detail out these footpaths, which are, it's good to know, but I'm going to have to get a bit closer. So we're just going to zoom in first. There we go. Okay, so I'm seeing kind of a braided footpath here and here, and then it looks like one over here. Would those be the 3 main ones, or are there others? Looks like there's actually another one here too. Are those about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. But there's another one just have to explain. Yeah, from that castle, from that point going to, yes, that one.
Okay. We were thinking the same
Yeah.
thing. Awesome. Okay, so I'm probably going to make that a dotted path because it kind of shows up light, which is great. And then I'm going to do another path that braids off of that. Looks like it's this. You can always come in here and fix whatever I don't totally understand.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this off of what I'm seeing as I'm going along. And Control Z is everybody's best friend. You're going to mess up. It's okay. It's just is what it is. There's lots of different ways to go this, and it looks like it's coming this way. Cool. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, double click it, and then I've got this on standby, and I can click all these. And then I can come here and do the exact same thing we did before. Grab this. Oops. Got to de-click that. There we go. Copy this one, copy paste, and then put it in line. And then we're going to grab this again, copy its format, and pathway. Now, because this doesn't show up very much, I might increase the line weight only in the legend, just so that way it's clear that they're one and the same. Then what I would do for you is I'd probably put in the fence and then some of these areas here. So for example, it looks like if I remove Sorry about that. If I remove this background, pardon me, let's do this again. If I'm looking at this area, this is all sort of bare earth. Is that roughly right? This whole area?
Yeah, that's the yard and the gravel road
Gravel
there
yard.
going to
Okay.
into the yes.
Great. So I'm just gonna block that out as well. And it looks like it kind of comes up here. And the nice thing is that even
Yes, that's
though this will end up, oh man, messed up. Okay, so sometimes if it's something that's very detailed, you want to zoom in. So we'll try this again.
yes.
If you're too far out when you do this, what'll happen is if you're too close to the previous element, it will, I think we'll do it that way. Great. It will change its coloration. So let's grab a orange yellow, something like this. Then let's grab the plus. Let's turn it slightly transparent, probably a bit more orange as well, because we kind of want to give it that gravel feel. That's great. And then we're going to click off of it, click back on, remove the boundary. And then I'm going to right click and we're going to order move back. We're not going to send to the total back because we'll lose it. Although actually we could send it back and then we could take this one, which is the big one, and send that to back. And that would be easier than going through each one, except we lost this. So now we got to send this whole one out. Order send to back. That should solve us. Yeah, there we go. Nice. So that's even a little bit too much color for me. So I'm going to come back in here and just drop the transparency a bit more. Yeah, that's nice. All right. So now that we got that done, we're going to come back over to wetland because we don't need it. And we're going to grab this, copy here, and then we'll go gravel yard. And so what I would do then moving forward, Musi, is I would take this and do the same thing around anywhere else that there's gravel yards. It looks like there might be some up here and there might be some bare earth here. Besides that, I would kind of detail the farmyard here and then detail any of the plots that are actively growing. Looks like you got a solar array back there. And then if there is any fencing, that's a random line that got in there. What's this one? Any of this put in just the same way that I've done. And then you're pretty much there because basically if we remove, always go back to removing the aerial and do we then see everything as we're supposed to? And if you're like me and you've got a little bit of German persnickety-ness in you, you can come back and just make sure everything's connected because that's who I am. It's just a part of it. So that's just nice and clear and clean. Were these lines specific to something? These black lines here?
No.
So they were just they got in there somehow. Okay, so that takes away that. And then again, if you're ever worried that, oh, we lost the aerial, that's why we make duplicates. So I can grab that aerial, bring it here and pop it right back in, right click, order, send to back, and we're back where we started. So yeah, it looks good. I would just continue following the process that I just showed you. Add in those different elements. If there is electrical lines that you know of that are running or any sort of utilities, that'd be great. And then what I would do next is if you're focusing on this area, this is the nice thing about vector graphics is what we could do, and we'll make a duplicate again, and then we'll do a fit. So, and then this one, of course, is going to be a bit longer than the other one. So we'll just pull that in. So if anybody wants to know how to do that again, you just double click an image, comes up with your crop bars here, and then you can grab the crop bars and move in and out. But basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this whole thing with me. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to make, oh, wait a second. I'm already in the one. Great. Awesome. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out and then I'm going to remove a bunch of the extra because I need this space on the outside to play. And so we're going to move all the great examples. And basically what we're going to do is going to grab this and then we're going to slowly, and it's going to take time, we're going to hold shift and pull out. And the one thing that's important, and you did this, but just so everybody knows what I'm doing, we still have the scale in here. So this means that if we exaggerate or if we scale up the entire image, we still have our scale to go with. So I'm just going to keep making this bigger because what I want to do is potentially use this for a more detailed map. And I didn't grab everything that time, so we're going to do this again. So I'm going to highlight everything. There we go. I'm going to pull back out to maybe 25%. Nice. Hold shift and then pull out again. And I might have to go down to 10%. I think 25 or 12, if I remember correctly. It's like 15 or 25 or maybe even 20 is the minimum. They just updated the program. So it looks like that's kind of it. So what we have now is if we grab everything again, and we pull it over to kind of center it on the slide, even though we can't see it. What we now have is the ability to grab our aerial, pull it in. And now what we've done is we've kind of minimized this whole space to just what we need. We're going to do this a bit more. I'm going to go down to here. Is this kind of roughly the space you were thinking of for the close-up base map, Muzi?
Yes, just around the school.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab everything. Made a mistake here, everybody. I've included the legend, and I should have deleted the legend before I did this because this is going to be a pain. So how can I do this effectively? I'm going to grab up to here, move this over here. I'm going to delete this. And because we don't need this, because it's not going to be part of the focus selection, we can delete that as well. And actually, we could delete a lot of this if we wanted to, but for the sake of argument, I'm just going to show everybody how to do this as is. So I'm going to bring this back. Oh, we also got the title in there. That's okay. We can delete that. And then self-similar, we're going to hold shift and again, just extend until we get a nice size that we're looking for. Now at this point, this area is starting to be a pain. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to readjust it so that it's just around here, which means that the area that we're holding on to is a little bit smaller. The one problem in doing it this way and with polylines is you can't add more markers. So we're going to have to come in and do this again, but that's totally fine. So I can delete all of this extra material because that's not going to be in our base map because we're using our aerial to show that these are. I'm going to remove the buildings, remove this for footpath, and we'll remove these guys. Then I'm going to double click on this one and bring it in so I don't have to deal with it. Great. So now we can come back, center this up, and I can continue to play with the sizing I want until I have it totally where I want it. And that's pretty good. Muzi, in terms of the design around this, like how much extra do you want around this site for your base map?
The site is very much very raw because there's no vegetation, much vegetation around in terms of trees and shrubs.
Okay.
It's just grass, lots of stones. Because I said last time on the previous assignment that the place is very much rocky and so yeah, there isn't much extra.
Okay. So in terms of like your design focus, if we have a map like this that's focused on this area, like the way I see this, and I'm not saying it's right, I kind of see it as kind of, you'd probably want to focus on an area, let's say like this, like that would be the area I would focus on the close-up. Would that be roughly right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now that we have, now that we have this, I can take this again. I'm going to pull this off only because, well, actually, I might leave it there and instead just trace over it. So, because this is our boundary line and we're going to go to the end of this. This could be tighter too, because we're working on this. Cool. So I'm going to send that to back. Order, send to back. I'm going to take the photo, send that to back. Right. And so now we've got this area, and basically I'm going to copy this over to here and then remove this. And now I've got that area. So self-similar here, Muzi, what you'll do is come in tight and really detail the building. So this is where you would put in doors. directions of the roof, probably some of these smaller footpaths. It looks like I'm going to duplicate this slide and remove everything just so I can see your aerial image. I'm going to take this, deselect the aerial. So it looks like you've got a couple of details in here that would be good to put in. Looks like you've got some sort of circular growth pattern, some vegetation here, and looks like potentially a fence around this area. So all of those would be
Yes, yes.
details that I would then put into this this base map.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. This has been very helpful, guys.
Okay, great. And if you need any more help, feel free to let me know. But I think you have enough now to play. And similarly here, you would just take the legend. You'd grab the legend, copy that, and bring it into here. And now you've got everything you need, including you could bring in the title bar again. So, all of those things are going to be important to bring in because you'll want that for the details of your map. But yeah, if you have
Okay.
any other questions, let me know. I'm just going to check in with the chat here and see if anybody else is keen. Ali's here. Sheldon, we just went through. Okay, let's finish with you, Muzi. Any other questions about the base map or what we'd want to include or how to do it?
No, I think I'm okay for now. If I have any questions, I'll make sure to get in touch with you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that was a great one. I like that
Thank you,
one.
sir.
All right. So Ali, let's go back to yours. This is familiar. We had a chat about this recently. What are we looking at? What do you need?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I guess so. I heard you make a point earlier regarding designing for the assignment first and
Mhm.
foremost, and then, kind of focusing in on an area if we so choose. I guess with that said, I included a bunch of examples here just to kind of give you a familiarity with like the steps I'm taking.
Mhm.
If you look at the Google image, as we spoke about before, it's new land, it's completely covered in forest. There's only two structures. So it's been really difficult to kind of, just look at an aerial and polygon everything.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm just asking your advice on what would you do if the assignment, obviously the assignment for me is the main thing. I want to get the assignment handed in, and I'll
Yeah.
work on some more focused design at
Sure.
some other time. So what would you do?
Yeah, great. So, so these look self-similar generally. There's a little difference in your property boundary in terms of this map versus your aerial. So the first thing I would say is one of these taken at an angle? Because that would be my first concern in building this base map.
I think all the property lines other than the Google image are accurate because I imported them using Equator Studios
Okay.
from a like a property boundary data system. So the first slides are the actual, authentic property boundary.
Okay, great. That's excellent to hear. The next thing what I would do is I would probably try to relatively bring these in alignment, and they're really not. Like the more I look at these shapes, they're very different. And so there's something wacky going on either with how you brought in this boundary. And I don't know if you brought this in Google Earth Pro or what, but there's definitely an issue between the two. Now, it's not a huge issue because you basically have the same mixed forest through the entire area. Like you're not seeing any ground cover. And truthfully, I don't even know where the structures would be in here because I'm not seeing
Yeah,
them.
that's been difficult as well, is trying to scale and figure out like where the yurt is exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you have access to a GPS program on your phone or a GPS?
I do. Yeah, there is no cell signal at the site.
Okay.
There is GPS, of course. I could
Yeah.
probably. What are you suggesting?
Yeah. So for folks that aren't in my group, I talk about a couple of applications that are super useful. One's called GPS Kit if you're on iOS or if you're on Apple. And if you're on Android, Gaia GPS. Now, the reason why I like both of those programs is one, you can take your points, which you can with any GPS conversation, and your GPS application should work without signal, but you will need to download the map before you get out onto the land. And then what I would do is I would corner mark your buildings, and then anything else that's important. So is there a pathway or road that goes through this to go to those structures?
Yeah, so off the main road, there's a little dirt trail that goes up onto the first level, and then there's another dirt trail that goes up onto the second level. Other
Right.
than that, there's not much. I mean, there are so it's got some old logging history. So there's some old covered logging trails throughout the woods.
Okay.
But they're they're scattered throughout, and you can't see them from an aerial.
So that would be super useful for the design process. I'm just starting up Google Earth in the background here. But one of the things that's really useful about using these programs is, especially if you're working with clients, but you guys are both your clients and your designers in the course, is if you can help clients help you to map out a site, you can get a lot of information in a short amount of time. And the reason why logging roads are useful is, and this is with some exception, generally logging roads are made in the most efficient, judicial way. So that way you move the least amount of earth and you have usually the best roads on site. It's not always the case, but if it is, then we've got a really good opportunity here to use those roadways to develop your site. So I'm going to show you an example here on access. This is a project I just finished. Excuse me. Dirt tracks. Okay. So it's going to take me a moment to figure out all of this because it's been a while since I was at this program or this site. But this was in the Pacific Northwest here. So everybody can see my screen there. Thumbs up. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Juan. So one of the useful pieces here about a site like this is that I educated my clients in guide GPS, and then had them basically walk the site of these trails that were unknown to me. And then from here, I was able to extrapolate the road. But at the same time, and this is what's so useful, is that they're able to take photo points. So photo points are useful because they're pulling out elements and photos that might be useful for me that also have the location and the elevation. So this, I think, for you would be essential in charting these pathways. And truthfully, until I got onto the site, sorry, up, north, pull out, until I got onto the site, I had these to go off of, and these then became the access pathways that I confirmed when I came to site. So what I would recommend is grab one of those programs. The other reason I like those programs is you can import the data into Google Earth Pro, which is super useful. And then track the pathways, bring them into Google Earth, import them, and then you could take a photo of this and then bring it into Google Slides. Or if you can bring in that topographic information into Google Earth Pro, you could very well just design your whole base map here and just take screenshots, which might be useful because this looks like a site that you guys are trying to design for the long term. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be my first two suggestions. My next suggestion, which you took from our conversation, is you took just a screenshot of this and called it wooded forest, which is great. If you can start to get a sense of what all the forest is in here, that would be useful. If you're not great at assessing vegetation right now, that's fine. You'll get there. The main curiosities I have is how the roads interact with this great valley. And just so everyone's picking it up, here we've got a ridge form. So ridge forms are usually when we're designing or working with keyline design, we usually mark our ridge forms with red. So that way we know that these are the dehydrating landform. And then we use blue, which is the hydrating landform. And my mouse drawing is poor today, so I will try that again. You could always go at the apex of each one. And there we go. So that basically comes down to there. And the reason why this is important for you, sir, is that in here we have a great opportunity to get a sense of what are called the land units. So land units is a part of keyline design, and keyline design says that we want to know what are all the roof surfaces of our landscape. If we were taking a look and calculating, which you will in week 5, the water that comes onto the site. Roads are usually demarcations of watersheds only because they're crowned at the top. So that is what I would consider land unit 1. And if we were to design any type of vegetation, that would be a useful demarcation to have. But what I'm really curious about is how those logging roads interact with the ridge and the valley, and if they convey water from one to the other. So getting in there and getting those points and then putting them onto your map would be super useful. But for all intents and purposes, your base map is done because you've got your wooded forest, you've got your elevations. The only thing that needs to happen here is you need to label your elevations so we know what their distance is.
Okay.
Other question for you. It looks like the patterning underneath here is different. So this is a tighter patterning than this. Does that demark something?
I'm sorry, what are we looking at? Are you still looking at the old property?
Oh, you guys can't even see what I'm doing because I'm showing you guys the wrong screen. All right, let's try this again. Can everybody see the base map?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So you guys were so polite. I'm saying things, nothing's happening. You're like, I guess he's doing something, maybe. All right. Let's do this again. Okay, so red is demarked the ridge form. So basically we have this ridge form here. Can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And then we have the valley form here. And just like a roof, these create pitches, if you will, that basically create land units. So in this situation, a land unit would be this area at the top, the area between the valley and the ridge, and the area at the bottom of the ridge. So what I would love to know from your site here is, one, how do these roadways interact with the ridge and the valley? And two, if this pattern, so we've got this pattern here, but then it changes here, it densifies. Does that change in patterning mean anything in terms of what's actually on the ground?
No, I think that's just a glitch in the
Okay.
that seems to be an OpenStreetMap background, I guess from the zoom level.
Sure. So just a digital artifact. Okay. So
Yep.
yeah, the only thing here that's missing for me is the roads, the buildings, if there's any utilities to the buildings, and then you going in and then putting in a little text box, usually outside of the base map. So putting it on the right-hand side, just showing me what all these elevations are.
Okay.
So that would basically look like a little text box here, put here, and then 150 feet because you're in the States, and then making sure it's at the font that makes sense for the site, probably a little bit smaller than that. There we go. And then just doing that all the way up outside the property boundary.
Okay. And to ask a question regarding, so I'd probably use Gaia GPS.
Sure.
That's just something that you download the map and then you essentially just walk through the trails and it just records.
Yeah, so it
that,
has three major functionalities that you'll use, and I suggest looking up Gaia GPS's tutorials on YouTube. But basically, there's path, waypoint that includes waypoints, single photos, and objects. But you won't use objects. So basically, the path or waypoints will be you then walking the road that goes up to the buildings and walking the roads themselves. And then when you get to the end, you're going to turn off the path so that way it's set, or else it'll continue on from where you stopped all the way to the next pathway. And then the photo marks will be you taking photos of different specific areas. So if there's mother trees or specific waterways, I'd love to see any sort of water flow that's happening in this valley form. That would be useful to see. I'd also like to see what the ridge looks like. If the ridge is generally pretty hydrated and you're in New York, so it's a humid climate, I wouldn't expect the ridge to be very dry, but I'd be curious to see if it was. That would be something you'd want to know for the plan that you're developing during the course.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other
that's really
follow-up
helpful.
questions from that?
No, that's it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, great work, man. Looking forward to seeing more of it. Anybody have follow-up questions about anything we talked about during that conversation? Because if not, I'm going to move forward to Juan's. Cool. All right. And feel free to unmute to ask a question or to go in the chat. Okay, Juan, tell me a little bit about your site and what you want some help on.
Hi, how are you? Hi, everyone. My simple question is the following. I have this contour map that was performed to me by topograph,
Okay.
but I want to know if this is the best option to have it like a base map or use better the Google Maps that I have in page 11 in page 11. So I don't know. Well, because I have seen some of the examples and the tutorials, and I see that the contour map is after the base map or like the aerial.
Yeah.
So this one is more accurate in terms of boundaries, measurements, and curves, of course.
Mhm.
So that's the main question there.
Yeah, so what I would try to do is I would try to process this photo through a photo editing software to create a white transparency for anything that isn't colored. And then I would try to line it up as well as possible with your image on 11. So you'll have to size that appropriately, and it's guesswork, right? Because we don't have known GPS points here and known GPS points here. Well, actually, it looks like we do.
Yes, they have some.
Actually, if you can find one of these points on this map here, you could overlay it directly, and that would be the best. That would be the best way of going about it, because it looks like these are actually quite a bit different in terms of scale. Do you know generally what the property boundary is on this map?
Is the green one.
Is the
The-
green?
The green line.
So I see 1, 2, 3, 4.
Uh-huh.
Is
Correct.
that the entire site?
Yes.
Really? So basically, if I was to take this, we're
It's
gonna.
just a square, yeah, like
Would
a rectangle.
Juan, would you mind resharing your property, resharing this with the sharing permissions turned to editor?
Okay.
Yes, that'll allow me to play with this and work it. So if you can do that, send it into the chat, and then we'll start to play with this. That's remarkable if that's the case. That's a great digital elevation model. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's
sure.
like
So,
a professional work. So
yeah,
I
it's a 20
would like
centimeter
us
contour, eh?
to take advantage of that, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Remind me, please, is on the reader for sharing
Yeah, you go up to the
letter?
share, click the share function. It should pop up there, and you'll click it to editor, anybody with link, and then you'll
Okay.
share the link in the chat there.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no worries. How we do? Okay, we still got a full hour, and we've got Amy, Victor, and okay, so we only got 2 more. Great.
There we go.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to click on this again. Clean up a little tab. Can I click on things? Yes, I can. Okay, great. So,
25, yeah.
I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to grab the aerial. I'm going to not move it so I don't mess up what you've been doing. Come back here. So we've got 25 is the original, and so 26 is my addition. Okay, so I'm just going to make this a bit smaller. And we're going to quickly, and we've already seen a couple of the limitations of Google Slides, but so basically what you're telling me is that this map here, basically if we tilt it, it's basically that corner lines up with this corner and basically stretches all the way out. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the person who did
So,
this
yeah.
for you, do they also have an aerial image that could come with this map?
No,
Okay.
no, they don't.
All right. Okay, so we'll fudge a bit. So I'm going to right click format options. And this is really where we start to see some of the frustrations with Google Slides. But again, it's accessible by everybody. So it has value, to be sure. Okay, so I'm just going to muck about here until I can generally get a sense of it. The one issue with Google Slides and its opacity for photos is that you'll lose it if you move it around too much. So you have to reload the whole thing. Okay, so this is definitely not going to be precise in any way, shape, or form, but it's going to be closer. Yeah, so what, like, this is the same thing as we were seeing in Ali's photo. One of these things is not like the other. So I would err on your point 0.2 contour, 0.2 meter contour. So what I'm going to do, which I will tell you all never to do, but I'm going to do it anyways, is I'm going to kind of stretch the photo a little bit here just to make it fit, which normally we do not do, only because we're distorting something that we don't actively know what the result is going to be. But in this case, because of your topography information, I feel fine doing it. So yeah, we're just going to come back in here. That's kind of roughly there. We could probably shrink it a little bit at the end. Problem is it doesn't have multiple points of transformation like you would in Adobe. Okay, so I like all of this. So I'm just going to order send backwards. And then order send to back because it's not moving. There we go. Okay, so the next thing would be is to either ask your friend if this can be exported in a transparent PNG file, which he probably can do if he's a surveyor. Probably shouldn't be a big deal. Or take this photo through photo application, be it you could use Canva or Adobe, and basically just turn it transparent, because then you've got all the information you need to start your design.
Okay, so that will be the best way to go. Transparency and go up from here.
And then from here, you're basically, you can either send this behind, order send to back, and then you can put in, a ground cover, same thing we've done before. So just grabbing that polyline, doing the ground cover here. And ground cover, we'll put the trees in over top. So that's fine. So that's going to be a ground cover of some sort. We could, again, pick our color. That's pretty good. Could grab that. I'm going to move my face. Face is always getting in the way, guys. Problem. So pond, and we're going to call that sort of bare ground cover. And then, don't add a space. And then from there, it looks like there's basically just a couple of tree specimens. Is that right? Or is there anything else there?
Yeah, only trees.
Okay.
And there's a well down, up there in the northeast corner.
Okay. So putting in the well would be useful. So basically what I would do is I would just grab this icon and I might change this color now that I've got the icon up there because it's looking a little problematic. Might turn it a bit yellow. Yeah, there we go. So then I would just grab this, any ones that are self-similar, do the self-similar size, and then anything that's smaller, basically center on there. It shouldn't take you too long. Make sure you grab the point in the middle, right click, group those together. Oh, it is grouped. Why didn't you go together? I don't know. Just did what it did. There we go, a little bit smaller. There we go. And then I would just pot mark all of these. And the great way that this is looking right now is we have the contours, we have the aerial, all of that makes really good sense. I probably move this down a little bit because we're kind of all over the slide. So kind of move this down a bit. And then I probably would also see if I can't pull this in a bit on a couple of the corners. You can always block out these areas by using a block of white. So you could grab a white block, go like this.
Ah, yeah.
And then turn all that white. So fill color white, no boundary. And then it starts to mask out the areas you don't need. But that I think is going to look phenomenal when you're finished. Yeah, it looks really good. I'm surprised you got such great contour data. That's rare for Colombia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, make sure to put in the well.
The well.
And probably put in the road as well. And then, yeah, you're good to go. I would ask him if he has a KMZ file of this as well, only because it's useful to have that as data if you ever decide to move to a georeference program.
Okay.
Any other questions there?
Oh, sir.
Okay, great work. It's looking
excellent.
Looking forward to seeing the final map. Excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any follow-up questions from anybody before we move on to Amy? Anything that anybody is wanting to follow up with on questions on that or anything else? Okay. Oh, nice. Hand drawn. Excellent. Looks excellent. Okay, Amy, tell me what's going on here.
Hey, I just wanted to, because it's hand drawn, double check that I was doing the right things and that I had the right pieces, especially like, I don't know, some way to overlay what the actual, at that slide above slide 23, I kind of tried to like put them together, but I'm not really sure with hand drawn how to do that.
Yeah.
That's if necessary.
No worries. Okay, well, let's play around with it a bit. And just a reminder, you'll need to go into the theme and put in your information here in the student title bar.
I still, it's like one of those things that I know I need to do and is overwhelming for me to try to figure out how to do. So I
All
have
right,
it.
so I'll just show you how to do it, and that way you'll have it in the in your conversation. So we've got layout, we've got theme here. So those are the main things. But under slide, we have edit theme. And then if you go to the very top slide, then just click on here. You could just put in your information. So
Okay,
we threw
wonderful.
in Amy just to show you that it works. And then if we
Great.
click out of this, basically every single one will now have Amy there. So that's just a quick review for you to jump in there when you've got the
Thank you
time.
so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to help. Everything's new when you don't know it, right? So it's
Yes.
all everything's new. Okay, cool. So we've got this and we've got your excellently drawn base map. The one thing I would say is if you can increase the resolution of this image, that would be ideal. So either scan it
Okay.
or go outside, put your phone to the highest resolution. And the reason why I say go outside is that you're going to have 3-dimensional light. So it really helps to see the detail here.
I did scan it on, but then I screenshot it so that I could get a more close picture. Is there a way to do that? Because here,
Yeah.
but
Can
on
you
the one
just bring in the photo
on
itself
the new
that you
one.
scanned and bring it in here?
I think
Like I'll make a new slide for you. So on 26 is the slide we wanted on. I'm going to
Okay.
delete this. And if you could just drag and drop it, was it exported as a PDF or as a JPEG?
It was JPEG.
Okay, great. So yeah, just drag and drop it into 26
Okay.
and we'll play around with it. So that's the highest resolution, eh?
Yeah, that didn't, I guess it didn't change it much, huh? I'll
So
try it again. Should I
that'll
put
be
it
in
on
your
the
settings
regular,
potentially.
like an actual physical scanner too? But I'll check it again and
Yeah, okay. So maybe take a look at increasing the resolution of the scanner itself or
Yeah.
switching to a photograph.
Okay.
Because I think that would be useful.
That's good.
Okay, so our question is, can we overlay this onto our aerial? And the answer is yes. But again, it's going to be a level of success here. So I would normally bring this into an application where I could try and remove some of the white space to be transparent. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take this, right click, format options. I'm going to move everybody's faces. Again, we're going to go to adjustments and opacity. And then basically we're going to overlay this and have to do a lot of refreshing because again, it has that issue. Wow, that wasn't bad on our first try. Nice.
Oh, that's good.
And then we're just going to try and kind of stretch this out to the size that we need it to. And again, we've lost the transparency, so we're going to do this again. Wait for it to come in. It's a little bit off, but not bad.
It is.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to give it
I,
a little bit more this way. Refresh it again. Doesn't this make everybody want to move to a program other than Google Slides? And then we'll see if we can stretch this a bit. Yeah, okay. I would say that's roughly right.
Okay.
So from there, again, this is our duplicate, so we don't need to worry about it. So we can delete this, and then we can grab this, and we can just shove it all over so we can see it. And then under the refresh, we should be able to see it as is. Great. Yeah, so that's pretty close. You could muck about with it and pull it a little bit this way and pull it a little bit that way, but I think that works pretty good.
Okay.
The other thing I would do is I would either digitally cut out your legend only because you're going to have a lot of information here, and I would probably move it over to the right or the left just so that
Okay.
way you've got some space. And then the other thing I would do, only because I'm a bit of a stickler for the horizontal title bar, is I probably would go, okay, so that's a little bit too much. I'm going to pull it down. I would probably go with a horizontal title bar, so that way you just have a bit more space overall. So I'm just going to show you what that might look like, because what will happen is you're going to have a lot of legend space on the right and the left-hand side. And
Mhm.
having the title bar just at the bottom will make you happier, will make future Amy very happy.
Thanks. I tried it on there first. I thought the picture looked like it fit better on that one, but
Okay.
that's
Yeah, and maybe that's the case. I'm definitely not going to tell you what to or what to not do, but looking at it now with that there, if you don't make the photo any bigger, that would be
Uh-huh.
great.
Yeah,
And
so
if you want to make the photo bigger, then I would definitely take that opportunity. So I would, oh, don't do that. I would pull this up, pull this down, and then basically try to make this as big as I possibly can, so that way I've got all the space possible. Yours is a great site that would really make a good case for having 2 base maps. And the reason for that is, on a lot of these long skinny lots, it's nice to have the back end and the front end. So
Yeah.
with this, what I would do is I'd probably just, again, when you remove that that legend, do something like this, and then we're going to pull this in. I'm just, for sake of demonstration, I'm going to show you what I would do once that legend was removed. Obviously it's there still. But then all of a sudden, your ability to design at scale will increase dramatically, which I think
Great.
you'll be very happy about. So I would do one like that. And then I would, oh, I might even be able to do it this way. So if I triple click this, I can basically move the icon up, which is excellent. Double click this, do a little bit of cropping. Crop here, crop at basically the same point. So that way there's 2. And then again, make this large scale. Let's see the bottom so we can see it. Yeah, so this does definitely justify the way you're doing your title page. And then the last thing I would do is I would grab one of these, especially for your base map, shrink it, and then basically throw a square around it just to show what the call out is. So kind of show it like there. Nice. And then make sure it's transparent, so we want to see through it. Usually turn it red, which is great. And then turn this red, which is also good. And then usually I would throw a line on there just to show for the very first time. Otherwise, throughout the rest of the assignments, you can just have that there and not. There you go. Cat's in the way, as usual. It's always the case. And then grab that and throw that up there. And then I would throw this in front. Not you. No one asked you to be there. Order, bring to front. There we go. And then turn these probably dotted red. There we go. So then it's very clear about what we're enlarging.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
Great job on the drawing, by the by. That's excellent.
Thank you. Nothing glaringly missing?
Let's take a look. I haven't really looked at it for that yet. Got swing door locations. You've got little purples, which are spigots. You've got septic drain field, which is in the front, which is curious. Pin oak.
Actually, I had a question.
Yeah.
Like, I can just write it on there. You did say, but we have no idea where the well is.
Oh, interesting. Interessante. And you've never seen like a gravel pad or a concrete lid or anything of that nature?
So there's an area right over by where these trees are on the left side in the back that has some gravel, but
Okay.
it doesn't look like it's a gravel pad. I would not have called that anything that would have resembled a well to
So
me.
I don't know, like, hold on. I don't know where you're from because your title isn't
New
done,
Jersey.
but you're near New Jersey, but you're kind of rural-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So generally when people are putting in wells, they'll put a gravel pad on top, or they'll leave it exposed. So I would imagine, I would go divining by shovel and move through that gravel pad and see if I can't find a concrete top, because that would locate your wellhead.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, okay, so we got bushes, low area, we got a bunch of Norwood maples. Okay, yeah, the only thing I would change likely, but you're in such a small conversation here, is I probably would just do circles and then do a 2-letter code for, you know, SM, Southern Magnolia, RC, Eastern Red Cedar, PO. It'll just make it easier. The one thing I find with specific iconography is it just makes the map a little bit less legible.
Mhm.
And if you are deciding to do this for others at some point, it's nice to have something simple that anybody can read.
Okay.
But generally that looks good. You've got, is this electrical? Yeah, underground electrical, underground gas. That's good. Generally you've got our ridge lines. We're kind of losing some of the drawing because of the resolution of the scan. So I really would try to do that scan or that photo first before you go back and do all these things.
Okay.
Yeah, because like the 2 is hard to read on the shed,
Yes.
but I get it. And usually numbers I do a circle around only because it helps to delineate them from like residence 1, which, you know, it's there, but it's just good to have.
Okay.
Garage door is good to have. Septic field. Okay. Yeah, that looks all good. I'm sure your instructor will tell you this, but you know, for a septic drain field, you're really looking at wildflower meadow. Nothing with big roots, nothing perennial, because it's expensive to pull those up when they get clogged.
I'm trying to, I really like the idea of doing like raised garden beds out there.
It's
Like,
doable. That's totally doable. Yeah.
but it
So
then
what I
makes
would do with
you know,
that is
half of the
I'd
part
be
of the year not attractive though. So
yeah. So the one thing I would be conscientious of is if you are going to do any sort of tubers that are going to have deep roots as an annual, definitely do them away from septic.
okay.
Only because they can grow pretty wild and crazy, and it will be annual only. That's the one thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just, this being, it gets so much sun
Yeah.
out in the front
It's
area that it
pretty
seems like
ideal.
such a waste to not do anything out there,
Totally.
you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you look at that, that's your prime growing zone. That's
Especially a lot of these trees are not there anymore.
okay.
So the aerial on these views. So
Yeah. And this is one of those designs where I would advocate for potentially removal or thinning of trees, just because your prime solar real estate is in the front.
mhm.
So you've got a lot there. And as I take a look at spigots, okay, we don't have downspouts. Do you have gutters on here?
Oh no, I didn't put gutters on. Okay, gutters, got it.
On the map or on the house?
Oh, I'm sorry. On the map, I didn't put it on
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, so gutters and
So
downspouts.
gutters and downspouts would be useful only because I would look at that first as one of your primary watering techniques through swale trails. So swale trails are basically swales on contour that you fill with wood chips. And then usually what I'll do is I'll take a big O pipe. This is corrugated plastic pipe that is perforated and non-perforated. And I would take it from wherever the downspout is and slowly start to snake it through a number of different pathways. Now those pathways would be on the east side of the septic, not the septic itself. So this would be where you may have your, you know, your long-term tall perennials, short-term perennials, just keeping in mind that you want to keep that solar corridor relatively free. So that way for your annuals, you've got as much sun as possible.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. The other thing I would think about, Amy, is building your beds. And this is something that few people do in the temperate climates. It's kind of a Canadian thing that we're importing to the States. Is building your beds in such a way that you can add, this will mean nothing for our tropic folks on the call, but building your beds in such a way that you can do some season extension. So the way that I like to build beds these days is I'm doing raised beds, however it might be. Generally what you'll do is you'll do a corner post. Oh, not that way. What do I undo? There we go. We'll do a corner post. And then generally what we'll do is we'll anchor to that corner post. And so what you'll do is you'll put your lugs through there. And generally, if your bed is any longer than 6 feet, if you're doing wood, you'll want to put a connecting tie through the center. Because what'll happen is the wet soil will bow and it'll destroy your raised beds. But in terms of long term, what I like to do is I like to take 1/2 inch conduit, 1/2 inch plastic electrical conduit, and basically create my hoops over the bed itself. Usually what I'll do is I'll do line post, which is the line post you use for chain link fencing. And what's great about this is that if you put these in with friction fit, so basically they're just stuck in there, you can move them up and down. So as the growing space creates more or less, you can move it up and down. And the great thing about this is if you then take a piece of rope, take it up here, wrap, 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 then you have a ridge line. Now you can put plastic over top. And so you can season extend. In a place like New Jersey, you can probably get 4 weeks on the spring and probably 6 on the fall. So you can have your greens going longer. And the other thing I really like is, and I do this in ground, so you can do this in ground or in boxes, but I like planting my carrots in about June for your climate, and then leaving them in there. And upon the first rain of the fall, cover them in plastic. You can keep your carrots in there all winter long and they'll just get sweeter. Not to mention you don't have to pull them in and put them into some sort of storage. And nothing makes you feel better. I don't know how much snow New Jersey gets, but in Canada, nothing makes you feel like a hero, like taking off a couple of feet of snow off of a plastic cover, pulling out, 20 pounds of carrots and coming back inside. So you can do this for things like kale, spinach, almost all your brassicas. And the great thing is that if you do spinach like this, and if you plant it in like August, that spinach will overwinter. You don't eat it, but it'll be the first thing growing. It's like you put it into dormancy and it'll just start growing immediately into the spring.
Nice. Awesome.
So that's great.
Great.
And
Thanks for all
then,
that.
no worries. And then in the bottom, what I would do is hugelkultur. So basically I would put a bunch of logs in the bottom, and then probably mound up, let's call this 2 feet. I'd probably mound up a foot, only because you lose 40% of your volume of wood as it decomposes with hugelkultur. So just to make future Amy happy, if you mound up, what'll happen is you won't have to add to it for probably 3 to 4 years.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. Came for maps, went into bed design. That's what we did.
Yes.
Any follow-up questions here for your base map, Amy?
Not at this point. Thank you so much. You're very thorough.
Okay, great. Anybody have any follow-up questions for Amy before we go to Victor? Or about Amy's map? It doesn't have to be for Amy, but okay. Victor, what are we looking at, sir? Nice to meet you.
Hello. You're looking at my design sites. I'm just wondering if I'm going in the right direction, and how much of the neighboring properties should I include in my base map? That's one big question I have. So what you just clicked on is the neighbor's carports place where they park.
Okay.
Yeah, the ends is where all the neighbors have their houses or their sheds.
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out how much of it I should include or not, because they're quite present. It's not like a site where they're like, some of them actually it goes against it's not a fence but the wall. And I'm not on the property right now, but I'll be on the property in 2 days, and then I'll figure out which trees where and what. And also one of the things I was interested in is which picture base image you would put in the back, because I took one from Google Earth where I imported the lines from contour map creator. But it kind of looks a bit messy now, so I was wondering what you would put in the bag.
Yeah, so I would say that this is going to be your base map right here. And probably what I would do, and again, I'm going to make a duplicate so that way my changes don't have to be yours. So what I would do is, that's not great. Oh, Yeah, you grouped it. Good for you. I would probably turn this to a lighter gray, just so that way it kind of fades into the background and you don't really see it. But having all of the units there is great. I like having the neighbors here. That's really excellent. You'll also need to bring in the scale bar. So you'll need to take the scale and make sure you match it and then bring it back here and either put it into the title bar or in above it. I'd prefer it in the title bar. But what I would do is this would be great for things like your sector analysis, probably your microclimate to show the influence of maybe some of your neighbors onto those microclimates. And then when you get into the design work, what I would probably do, and I'll just do another duplicated slide so we can do it as we did it before with somebody previously who I've already forgotten the name of. That's how good I am. Basically, I would then enlarge this. That's probably way too big, but that's probably roughly right. And then this will just be a little bit more, this will be a little bit more easy for you to design on because you've got a bit more sizing. In fact, I might even go a little bit larger here. So that's still on, that's still gutter space. Yeah, and then from here, what I would do is I would just take your title bar, turn it white, solid white, and then move it to the front, order to front. And now what we've got is we've got this background information, same thing with your legend. I would turn your legend white as well. Nice. So now it's actually quite, you've got all the information, but we can still actually see the influence of the two. And the nice thing is that once you turn this grayscale, as you will for your eventual final design, all the plants will pop, and there's a lot more space to design than this, which is a bit further back. So yeah, I would say that's probably roughly how I would go about it in terms of sizing.
Would you then for the base map, would you leave it like this and then build the legend on top and crop it a bit? Is this what you propose also for the exercise of the base map, or just for the future exercises? Okay.
No, I would say for all of what you've done here, this is largely what I would see. I might remove some of these things or like bring them down and cut them off just so that way it's a bit cleaner. And I might do the same thing over here is cut it off a bit, and I might bring in some of my units so that way now I can see them a little bit easier because we've lost some of that detail in the way that we've brought this up. So I might bring in some of the units and bring them here. But what's great about this is it gives us all the information we need, and it gives you all the space to play. It also gives you space here for legend if you need to bring in more information. Your site as well, like Amy's, might benefit from having two base maps. You can kind of bring in the area around the house and the area around the backside of the property. That might be useful. Yeah. Yeah, a couple things that I would still look to see here, and I know you're not done, but things like spigots, downspouts, electrical, any sort of gutters, the pitches of the roof, and then door locations and swing direction.
Yes, it's a flat roof.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's why I have to be there and figure out where does the water go, where does it drain.
Yeah.
I know it's a roof, but I haven't been on it for a while.
Yeah, just understanding where the roof drain is, then putting the roof drain in there will be important. And then if there are downspouts, or if a lot of the buildings I found in Belgium and Northern Europe, they have integrated downspouts that are internal to the building, but that may or may not be the case for yours.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's lead on the or some kind of metal on the outside, but I'll figure it out.
Great work though.
Okay.
It's a very clear base map, easy to read, easy to understand, looks really good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Any other questions there, Victor?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up questions from anybody else about their base maps, or follow-up questions that might have come up as we were talking about base maps?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know if I missed it, but so when I did the thing to get contour lines via Google Earth Pro, when I import it back, it's all white. Is there a way to change the color on that, or you're stuck with whatever Google Earth Pro populates from the KLM that I got from whatever I took it from?
I'm sure there's a way around that. So basically you've produced contours off of the Google Earth terrain data, and you've taken it out and you've put it into Google Slides, and now you're trying to put it back. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, no, so I went to one of the sites in order to get contour lines. Then I got the contour lines, and then it created a KLM file that populates automatically on Google Earth Pro. And then when I'm taking I guess the snapshot of the property, the lines are white. So when I take that snapshot and I put it into Google Slides, the lines are white, and I want them a different color so it could be easier to see instead of it being a white contour line. I don't know if there's a
Okay.
way to color it.
Yeah. So do you have that in your presentation? We might be able to manipulate it directly in Google Slides.
Yeah, I do. I have them in the hidden slides.
Okay. So I'm just going to go back to the chat and pull yours up again, Sheldon. And then I'm going to share my screen.
I'm actually also interested in this because all I did was draw over the lines with another color, and maybe there's a better solution.
Yeah, I had a student a little while ago who figured this out, and with everything that was going on, I just never followed up with them. But okay, where am I here? I want to be on Safari, and I don't have Safari. Okay, that's weird. Give me one sec. Let's try this again. Screen share. There we go. Okay, so okay, they're in the hidden slides. Okay, can you share and give me editor access, Sheldon?
Okay, so in order for me to share, sorry, how do I do
Yeah,
that?
so you go up into the share button, and then this will pop up with a dialog box, and it'll say share editor or share viewer. You're going to switch to editor, and then copy link, and then put that link in the Zoom chat.
Wait a moment. So
And that'll allow me to muck about with what we've got here.
okay, so you're talking about in Google Slides, correct? Or in Zoom?
Yeah, so can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so click on the share button. And
Got
then
you.
I'll do it on Victor's because I've got editing access. So click on share. It'll pop up here. Click this to editor. It should be on viewer. Click to editor, and then click copy link, and then give me that link in the chat with Zoom.
No problem. Okay, so I can copy link, and then now I hit editor.
Mhm.
Copy link. Then I paste it into here.
Yeah, well done, sir. Excellent. Okay. Yep, I can click now. Awesome. All right. Okay, so this is the one. Yeah, great. So this is the one where we've got, okay, so I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to make everybody small so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to first unskip. Okay, great. So now I can duplicate. So we're going to keep 34 as the OG, and then I'm going to, oh, hello. Why did we get big? Okay, on Zoom. It's on Zoom. Okay, so what you did is you took a screenshot of the contours.
Yes.
Ah, okay. So yeah, at this point, the only thing for you to do would be to trace them, because it's embedded into the aerial. So there's no way that, like, we don't actually have just the contours there. So it would just be taking a few minutes and then taking the polyline and going through and going through the whole thing and just tracing them.
Okay, sure, no problem. I just
Yeah.
wanted to a different way. I was going to do that today, but
Yeah, no worries. There is a way to if you take it off of Contour Map Generator, there is a way to download a PNG, which has a transparent background, and you may want to try that first. Because that may be more useful, because all you'd have to do is line it up to this and then you'd be done. But I imagine you'd be done, it would take about the same amount of time as tracing it.
thanks.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Any other questions? Base map or otherwise related? We've done bed design, we've done base maps.
Yeah, I just had a question. Where because you just said you can export the contour lines as a PNG.
Mhm.
Do you export it from Google Earth Pro, or do you export which one exactly do you export it from?
Yeah, so you can from Contour Map Generator. I'm just gonna pull it up here. And I think it's SVG. My apologies. I think it's SVG. So from Contour Map Generator, you can download either a SVG or download KML file. And as an SVG, it is transparent as is. So that file will be transparent. Your only issue will be making sure that it lines up with something known, so that way it's relatively in the right place.
Okay.
Both those will work.
Can you import an SVG into Google Slides?
It's a good question. I think you can. Let's grab one. Nash, where are you? Let's grab your coordinates here, see if we can grab them. Sometimes this works. Coordinates, lat long. That's southwest points. All right. It's going to take a little bit longer to do. All right, let's instead grab something from where I grab. Let's grab Rollins. So let's say we grab something like this. And then oh. Data. Okay. Oh, it's taken that first one we took. All right. I'm gonna do it in Africa. Really just need to see this. That'll be way too big. Okay. So let's get the data for that. Great. So that's at 5 meter contour. Let's jump down to our download SVG file. Now, so we're going to use yours as a test slice here, but we'll make a, oh, that's the other one. That side. Invalid. Okay, so it is invalid. Interesting. So no, you can't. Good spot there, Victor. So SVG to PNG transparent. Oh, looks like there are some SVG to PNG online. So we're just going to pull this into one of these random URLs. That one wants me to pay. We're not doing that one. I'm going to do this again. Great. So yeah, I just used something called Cloud Convert, which transposed it from a SVG to a PNG. Ah, there we go. Cool. So what I did was, and you may want to do this as well, Sheldon and Victor. So what I did is I took what screen? Ah, there we go. So what we took is the contour map generator. We took this output, this SVG output, downloaded it. We couldn't get it into Google. So instead I looked up SVG to PNG transparent. The first one wanted me to pay. The second one was free. So SVG to PNG cloud convert. I took that, brought that in here, downloaded it, and then brought it back in to back in here. So now it's totally transparent and all we have to do is label it. So that saves a fair amount of time.
That is awesome.
Awesome. If you click enough buttons, things work, has been my experience. So that should work for you, mate. So what I would do is I go back to contour map generator, grab this, export it, take it to SVG, PNG, and then just align it to what you currently have. And then you'll be good to go because you'll already have a guide for it.
Thanks.
Yeah, most welcome. Any other questions? All right, folks, that was fun. Thanks, everybody. If you have any more Basemap questions, we'll be meeting again on Friday in the evening, my evening. Or if you want to reach out, javin@allpointsdesign.ca, happy to help you out. Remember, the map is not the territory. It's a great first place to start, but really it's about getting onto the landscape and seeing if what we're seeing on the map is actually what we're seeing in the landscape. So like a lot of these topographical data sets, they're wildly prone to error. Unless you have like Juan, a buddy who works in surveying, in which case you get 20-centimeter contours and you're laughing. But for everybody else, just make sure to get yourselves onto the landscape. And really, you'll have to ground truth everything you do anyways. So no plan survives first inception. It's really about getting there, getting a rough idea. And it's really about getting that water layer right. That's the big one. So generally when I'm working, and I can show you a little bit about how this looks if anybody's interested and wants to stay a bit longer. When I do this type of work, and actually I'll show you on a different version. I think that's probably a better way to do it. I try to get the highest grade topographic information possible. And the reason for this is that information becomes invaluable when you're starting to do total water catchment. So I'm just going to show you a project I did a few years ago. We did the initial first survey, and then we did just a recent update to the survey. This is a colleague of mine's property. So I went in and did this survey, and this was done with what's called an RTK ground station. So we ended up having this RTK ground station up here at the top, a little bit outside of the boundary. That then gave us a point in space that we could then associate the drone flyover and then taking a bunch of points with a receiver. And then we were able to develop these maps. So this was done with an RTK ground station, a receiver, and then a DJI Mavic 2 as a flyover. And how this worked is that what we needed to do was we needed to get close enough so that way I could get all the information that was in between the tree area done by drone. And then we went into the treed area to take all of our ground points. And then I was able to produce these outflow maps that creates a fair amount of detail. This was what it looked like when we began. And then this is the project that the client was able to develop from our maps. It's also able to put in a pond here, and then there's another big pond here. What's interesting about the maps that I created for this person is that there was a trickle that came out here, came down the road here, and then came out. And that trickle was accurate to about 2 centimeters or 2 inches, 5 centimeters. So the accuracy of the map is remarkable. And I'll show you now what that looks like from a mapping perspective. I think Menthia's is still up here. Let me just take a quick look. Yeah, her GIS outputs here. So I'm going to bring you guys to another map of mine. And these are created through a third-party contractor that I work with. who every once in a while has time for another input. So if anybody's interested in these, feel free to give me an email, and I'd be happy to see if he's available to do it. This is how these were created. This was for a student in my previous class. So this was data that we had to pay for. So the data was about $400. So not inexpensive, but a lot cheaper than a survey. So I'm going to turn off all of these. And the main one was this catchment catchment area. Oh, I remember what happened. I removed them. Right. Okay. So I'm going to just bring these back in here so I can show you what they look like. There we go. Give me one sec. So when you provide data for a client, you usually put it into a certain format that they can pick up. And when that happens, you tend to lose the file location. Here we go. Great. So what these are is these are flow lines that basically show volume accumulation in this area as a watershed. So if we throw on their property boundary, which will give us a sense of scope and scale, this then gives us a sense of what the total flow accumulation is. So obviously at the bottom of this watershed, this client is pulling in from a watershed that's quite a bit larger than just her site. And just to that point, let's just map it because it's kind of fun to do. So I would say that's about roughly right. I'm going to move this over so I can see the other corner. Oh, this way. There we go. This is definitely the height of land in between these two watersheds. And we'll include this one just for good measure. Okay, so if we go into measurements and we go into area, in terms of meters, this is almost a 6 million meter squared volume of water that then concentrates down. And all of these colors are concentrated to the volume that, or the area, pardon me, the area that is concentrating. And I think at the end here, we're close to, we're over 5 million, which matches with this. So this just means that we're very conscientious of how much water is coming into the site. And this is taking the scope and scale of what the size is. But if we then turn that off and we just keep on just her site itself, I'll zoom in here. Now we have the specifics to her site. So just what is captured within this boundary. So already we have different drainages that are important for us to take a look at. And that's really what we're trying to get from the topographic maps as we're starting to read them in terms of where are the water flows, where's the high sides. So during our course, we ended up developing a number of ponds on this site because of this as well. So we have a good sense of what this all looks like. This is an important value of it. Anyways, I just wanted to show you folks that to see what's possible and where you can go with it. Any follow-up questions to that? Or are we feeling complete today? Happy? All right, folks. It's a pleasure to see you all. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out on Friday. And this Basemap clinic will be up in the tutorials for the Basemap in the template within 48 hours of the call. So if you do want to jump in and take a look at it, we've got that as well. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for jumping in.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.